like, does that come from, I mean, do you think that comes from A, genetics, B, hard work, or C, having a bit of a fucked up background, basically, or a combination of all three? Because I think it's very like easy to sit there and say, just in general, if people are like, oh, if you work hard you can get this, but I think
it's a load of shit.
You are quite, yeah, it's a load of shit. Like, it's a very, you've got a unique, you're definitely a unique case and have a very unique story. So what do you cite as like the main thing that kind of started that? Obviously there is a lot of hard work, etc., but everyone works hard.
So I mean, first of all, on the hard work part, it also depends, I guess, on what stage you're at. So please, when I say this, don't take this and be like, okay, Iman said this, so I can go do this. Like, on the hard work part, there's people who work 3 times as hard as me, and like the other thing is, like, I mean, I'm coming to the tail end of it now. I've noticed this is always a pattern every year. I think for 3 months, it was not one night I wasn't drunk during summer, right? So it's like, and yet my business grew month on month. So it's like, first, and by the way, that's also after running my business for 5 years. So bear that in mind. So that kind of like, you know, for me, and that's also the other thing that I want to kind of delve into in part of this podcast is like, man, there's so much shit that people say on podcasts that they know just sounds good, but it's just like, it's just so not true, or it's just like so
shots.
Yeah, just like, dude, the most successful entrepreneurs I know, like, they're not. I used to be so anal and ADHD about like, I have to wake up at a specific time and get the sunlight on me. And by the way, like, I love biohacking, right? Like, I go overboard within the 6 months a year that I do like monk mode, and I don't drink and I don't. Like, I'm very diligent, but you know, you don't need to do most of that shit, I realize. But on your point, the thing is, like, I always, people will always be like, oh, he's successful because, well, obviously he comes from a wealthy family. I think that's a little shit. I actually think it's harder if you come from a wealthy family to be self-made successful. Like, granted, if your dad got you into some tech company through his connections, of course, that's a different story. But as an entrepreneur, to make it when you come from a wealthy family, in my personal opinion, is far more admirable, because you have no, like, there's no spark, there's no reason for you to do it, right? Because the thing is, you're going to work hard to make your own money to experience the same thing that you experience through your parents' money. Like, it's like, imagine you're used to, you know, spending, you're used to spending, you know, a week on a yacht, a week on which, by the way, is the reality for a lot of people. I know, because I grew up with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Dude, they're used to fucking flying business class, right? From the age of 8.
Val d'Isere in December.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, they're used to the 15K holidays. So imagine now you have to work your ass off just to get the thing that you were getting either way, right? So I don't think, you know, it's easier if you come from a wealthy family at all. But then on the flip side, I also don't think it's an advantage if you come from too fucked up. So that's why I had the perfect concoction, because I had a really, really fucked up, I mean, I don't think any of the like really fucked up stuff I went through growing up necessarily helped me as an entrepreneur. That probably didn't. Well, I guess maybe in the sense that I had to work through a lot of that stuff. But I think the thing is, because I had no money, because me and my mom were cut off, and, you know, between 2013 to 2016, when my business really started to take off, or at least I could kind of support us. Yeah. You know, we were bouncing between government benefits. She was a receptionist at Chelsea Westminster Hospital, so like whatever, just minimum wage jobs. Because I had that, and I had that pressure on me. But then on the flip side, I went to school and I was with literally billionaires' kids. So for me, money was never, it was never like, the thing is, if you grow up in too difficult of a situation, then you think money is hard to get, right? And but the thing is, if you grow up in too good a situation, you're like, oh, you're used to money, but then you don't have no real reason to get it. Yeah. So the thing is, I had this perfect concoction where not only from a perspective of like work ethic and everything like that, but also from a mental perspective, it helped me so much with life insights, because I would be at home with my mom and she'd be fucking so like, she'd be depressed, and she would be just in such a just dense state, and which is, you know, understandable considering her life situation. You know, these days she's like literally the most incredible woman ever, like happy, smiley, jokey all the time. But that was understandable considering her life situation. But then I would hang out with my friends' parents, who literally were worth 350 million, And it was the exact same. And I'm like, the money didn't do anything, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So for me, it was a really good insight to learn that. And that's also why when money started coming in, I dealt with it pretty well. I mean, of course, I've, done a fair share of my stupid shit, but for the most part, I know how to actually deal with it.
Yeah, that brings me on to two things.